things in Jackson. I was a part of Mayor Lumumba's administration of the city, well, part of his work with creating a people's platform. I helped to craft a people's platform that saw 9 months of a demonstrated practice that gave people energy and momentum, and people were excited about what the city was bringing into fruition. And so I have an understanding, I have a professional understanding of looking at many of the things that this city has to deal with. I can tell you why many of the contracts do not benefit the city, because I am an attorney who has the professional training to look at contracts and negotiate a contract to the city's benefit. The reality is that this is the most critical election in our city's history. And we don't have the opportunity to get it wrong. And so we need someone who has understanding and someone who does not believe that they have all of the answers. Because the first and most important thing that I will share about myself is that I understand that I have to listen to people. As an attorney, I listen to expert advice all the time. I have to listen to doctors. I have to listen to engineers. And I use that expert training and opinion in order to guide, as information as we guide the track that we will take in that case. It's much the same when you look at how you guide a city. Everyone in this audience and everyone in this city may not be an expert in engineering. You may not be an expert in education or crime, but you are experts in the conditions in which you live.
That's right.
And so your voices need to be heard. I strategically waited to take the microphone because I've heard this critique about needing mature leadership, and I believe that that's correct. But we have to ask ourselves the question of what is our measure of maturity? Right? Is it a measure of your ability to make mature decisions, or is it simply just a matter of age? Because if we look at it as just being a matter of age, we would have to say that we have a mature president, wouldn't we? So I want us to make certain that we don't take any shortcuts in this process, and that we be in tune with the plans that every person has. And this isn't to disparage anybody, because it's not a battle of personalities. It's not a battle of individuals. It's a battle of ideas, and the best ideas must reign supreme at the end of the day to move our city forward. Since we are in this beautiful sanctuary and we're in the house of the Lord, I would like to sit down after I read some scripture here. 1 Timothy chapter 14, verse 12. Don't let anyone look down on you because you are young, but set an example for the believers in speech, in conduct, in love, in faith, and in purity. Thank you.
That was a great speech.
Oh, yeah.
I'm Ronnie Crudup Jr., and I'm running for mayor of the city of Jackson. I believe that I'm the best candidate to be mayor for this city, simply because I'm a winner. I want to make a little joke real quick. We were in the back talking about, we were all football fans, and Mayor Yarber said that he's a Saints fan, and we know what that got him. But Antar said that he's a Detroit fan. So sometimes, Detroit hadn't won as much. And I would like to say that I'm a Patriots fan. So some may boo me for that, but I believe in winning. Now, let's get to the points. So what makes me the best candidate for mayor is simply because I believe that I can get things done. That's all I've done all of my life, is get things done. I'm not a politician. I'm a public servant. I've been a servant all my life. My father's Bishop Crudup, my grandfather's H.T. Frazier, and so we've served this community of Jackson for a number of years. We have wanted to make sure that we serve the citizens of Jackson the best way possible, and I've seen that happen over and over again in my lifetime through my family. I believe that affordable home ownership is one of the things that we need to see all across this city. Right now, we have dilapidated homes all around town, and that's one of the major things that I've been focusing on already for me just doing the work in the city of Jackson. I work for New Horizon Ministries right now, and my nonprofit, two things that we focus on very, very heavily is affordable home ownership and also investing in our youth. Affordable home ownership is one of the things that we need to see to build the revenue back up in the city of Jackson. That's the reason why we can't get our streets paved, because we don't have enough revenue. We have over, I think, 7,000 properties right now that the state owns that we need to get back on the tax roll. We have done that already from my position. We have put families back into homes. We have torn down properties. But the main thing is we can renovate properties back again to get families a place to live in. We have families right now who don't make enough money to be able to pay their rent. Also pay their house note. We can fix these dilapidated homes all across this city and then make sure, you know what, they don't have to pay for $350, $400, $500 a month. They don't have to pay $700, $800 a month in rent to stay in the city of Jackson. That's what's been happening right now. And people are moving over and time and time and time again. So what makes me a candidate for mayor is because I can get things done. There's never been a project right now that I've started that I have not completed. If that's a housing project, you can ask Hope Community Credit Union, other banks. I make sure that I get the job done. I don't care if it takes a year or it takes 2 years. We're going to make sure all the way to the end that we see a family move into their house and it's going to be a safe place to live in. People are tired in this city of seeing the same old people, seeing the same old things getting done, the same old excuses. We're tired of that. You need somebody who can get the job done but has integrity to get the job done as well. I'm a person that you can stand on, you can trust, that's going to bring leadership to this city, that's going to bring integrity, and also going to bring stability. We need some stability back in this city, and I promise you that I can bring that. I'm a man of my word, always operated in that manner. So what you see with me is what you get. So I'm not a guy that's going to shoot to you some lies, some great rhetoric, but I can promise you, I'm the guy that's going to get to some action. It's all about action in this city right now. So that's why I'm running for mayor. I'm running Crudup Jr. I promise you, if you vote for me, you're going to be voting for a winner. All right.
Good evening. My name is John Horn, and I am a candidate for mayor of the city of Jackson. You know, all of these gentlemen on this stage bring something to the party. But we're at a point in our city where we've got to make sure we get it right the next time. We're only going to get one more bite at the apple, in my opinion. And we've got to make sure that we get somebody who is going to get results, who's going to get the job done, who's going to make it happen. And there's no one else in this race who can really touch me in terms of having a track record of having gotten things done. Now, we talk about what we can get done or what you're going to get done. Look at what has gotten done. Over the past 24 years, every major project for development, every major project dealing with the infrastructure has come with help from the state of Mississippi. And the fact of the matter is that the Hinds County delegation has been working its tail off over the last 24 years to deliver for the city of Jackson. We have delivered over $500 million in resources to the city of Jackson, and I've been right in the middle of it. We can get the job done because we've been getting the job done. I don't care if you're talking about economic development. I chair the Senate Economic Development Committee for the past 10 years. If you talk about the situation with crime, we just did a Capital City Crime Prevention Plan that got put on the shelf as soon as it was delivered. We can get results because we have the relationships. We have the experience. We know housing. I do that in my personal life. We can deal with getting the resources to get the job done. The only way we're going to get ourselves out of this mess that we're in, the only way is we've got to generate more resources. And the person who can do that better than anybody else in this race is Senator Horn, is John Horn, because I've been doing it for the past 24 years. We can get help from the state. We can get help from the federal government. We can get help from the private sector, but it's got to be with the right leadership. And it's got to be because of who's got the best resources and the best relationships. That's the only way we got to rebuild this house. And you can't rebuild it on a hope and a dream. We've got to be able to get those resources and then use them wisely and in a timely fashion, which has been another problem our city's had. We've been delivering these resources, and they aren't being used wisely. They aren't being used in a timely fashion. It's time to change that. And Horn administration will do just that. We can get the results Jackson needs and deserves, and we can do it to take our city back. Thank you very much.
Let me ask a few follow-up questions based off of what each of you shared, and I'll start this way and work my way down. Senator Horn, this is your third time running for mayor. You've run twice before. Why should the citizens of Jackson believe that you are not only electable this time, but deserve your vote?
We have a great organization in place. We have a great message. We are working our tail off, seeing and going to as many, and I'm in church, I gotta remember that, I shouldn't have said working out, blank off. But, you know, we're taking our message to the people. We're taking our message to as many doors as we possibly can. You know, I say, when people say, oh, well, this is your third time around. I said, well, you know, William Winter took him 3 times before he was elected governor. And he went on to become one of the best governors we've ever had. I think I can be one of the best mayors this city has ever had.
Let me ask one follow-up question. This is what I kind of hear around the city. There are those who may want to give you another look, but they're concerned that you have too much influence from the white business class, and that if you were elected, you would pretty much be controlled by those who may not have the best interest of the inner city. So how do you respond to those criticisms?
Well, I've been getting results for this city for 24 years. It has not had any impact in terms of the business community on my ability to deliver. And I'll say this about these potholes and this bad water. It doesn't care whether you're a Republican or a Democrat. We've got to fix this issue. And everybody's in this thing together. I'm a man who stands on his own 2 feet. I always have, and I always will.
Supervisor Graham, you shared with us that you've had the experience to be mayor. Can you drill that down to what particular experiences and skill sets you have that are germane to being mayor, budgets, those kinds of things, and then tell us what a Graham administration would do differently than the previous ones have done?
A Graham administration would do everything differently. We have produced budgets for the county. I've been elected 3 times. I ran in a district that said that an African American could not win. I've won decisively. I've had to produce budgets. We've had to go through furloughs. We've had to go through problems with the city. We've had to go through crisis before. When I worked with the police department, we handle crisis every day. A crisis is nothing for me to handle because I'm experienced. I know what to do during a crisis. I am not afraid to see a crisis come. The next mayor of the city of Jackson needs to have gray hair or no hair. That's where the experience comes in. I want to be mayor of this city because I still care. How many boil water notices are we going to have? How many times are we going to have to see people being shot? How many times are we going to have to look at 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people shot in the middle of the street? We have brown water. We have boiled water. We have no water. We have water gushing up out of the ground. We don't know if we'll be able to take a bath tomorrow. If I am your mayor, this will not happen because not only will I be out front, I will be up front. Thank you.
Yeah, so before you pass the mic, let me just follow up. You said you do everything different. Really spell that out. What would you do differently than, say, the Yarb administration has been doing over the last 3 years?
Number one, I would end furloughs for city employees. I would make sure the city employees would get back to work. Number two, I would motivate police officers. The worst thing that a criminal could ever see or hear is a motivated police officers. I would bring in experienced, mature people that will help with the budget. People that know what they're doing. I will bring in people that know how to run the water department. The water department is an enterprise fund. It needs to be separated from the city's budget. I would make sure that we restore J-Tran. We have given our city away, and people are laughing at us. We need to do something to make people stop laughing at the city of Jackson. We do not need to privatize everything. We need to make sure that we run our own bus line. We need to make sure that we collect our own quarters out of the meters. We can't afford to give our city away, so therefore I'm telling you that this is the start of everything. Making sure that we separate the water department, making sure we motivate our police officers, making sure that we give the fire department the equipment that they need. Fire station number 20, they can't get on the fire truck for having to run from roaches and run from rats that's at the fire station. We can do better.
Thank you. Mr. Kruta, let me ask you a couple of questions as a follow-up. One of the things I've been hearing around the city is he really just running on his dad's name? Is he going to be his own man, or is this going to be really a Ronnie Kruta senior administration if you were elected? So can you speak to those concerns?
Definitely. I plan to make sure that this will be my administration. This won't be Bishop Ronnie Kruta Senior's administration. Bishop Kruta has enough to worry about at New Horizon Church. This would be, for me, this would be what I would be leading and what I would be doing. So you don't have to worry about Bishop Ronnie Kruta being the head of this administration. Now, I would say this. I would have him as one of my advisors, definitely. But I will be leading this city.
And a second question. You've done a number of things according to your resume, a lot of influential things, particularly in South Jackson. But many wonder, why jump from that kind of work to being mayor? Why not run for council? Why not do something else? The concern is maybe you're not quite ready to be mayor. How do you respond to that concern?
Well, I will say this. The work that we've done in South Jackson is tremendous. South Jackson is the reason we started this work, because when you saw the news and heard the news, all you heard about the negativity that was happening in South Jackson. So I took it upon myself with a few others to make sure, you know what, we're going to build some pride back in South Jackson again. And that's what I want to do for this entire city of Jackson. Jackson right now has a bad image. When I go to other places, they always talk about Jackson is this and Jackson is that. I want to make sure we bring Jackson a positive image that people can feel proud of. And some people say, hey, you know, you can't win this race, that you may not be the right guy. I look at it like this. You know, my wife, beautiful wife, is here. Before I got married to my wife, you know, when I was dating other ladies, all I heard all my life was women say, you know what, you're a good guy, but you may not be the husband that I want. I mean, that's what I heard. You know, they said, you're a good guy, but, you know, I want somebody else. Somebody a little bit more thuggish, or somebody a little bit more whatever. You know what? But my wife, she's proud that she has me now. So, when people tell me that you a good guy, but you probably can't be a good mayor, I promise you, if you elect me, you're going to be very proud.
Thank you. Attorney Lumumba, this is your second time running, and one of the questions may be sort of like the question with Senator Horn. If the citizens ultimately did not elect you last time, why would they want to elect you this time? And sort of a tangent to that is, what have you done between the last election and now to provide yourself more readiness for the occupation?
Well, first, I'd like to share in all sincerity that I'm thankful that I didn't win the last election. I'm thankful not because I was not sincere upon the last campaign. I'm thankful not because I do not believe that we could have had success in a Lumumba administration. But I'm thankful because I've been able to appreciate more that's going on with our city. I've been able to have a greater understanding of what's taking place. People sometimes forget that in a 2-month period of time, I buried my father, my wife gave birth to our first child, and we ran a campaign. And so it was a lot to take in at that moment in time. And I'm not running just simply because I want a title in front of my name. When people would ask me whether I was running again, I would say if it's necessary. Because that's the only reason that you really should run.
All right.
Our leadership should be chosen less out of political ambition and more out of necessity. And right now it is necessary. And so my job, my mission, is to make it clear that I want to be the mayor for everybody in the city of Jackson. That I'm not trying to push anyone from the table. I'm trying to broaden the tent. And so it is my responsibility to disseminate that message. And I look forward to doing that. I want people to vote for me, not because they like me, right? I think I'm a pretty nice guy, right? But because we have a plan that can move our city forward. And that's what's important to me.
So you talked about expanding the tent, which speaks to one of the concerns that came up in the last election about whether or not, for the lack of a better way of saying it, Antar Lumumba is going to be an anti-white mayor, and that's going to push away white folks and going to bring in nationalists, and there's going to be Jafrica and all these kinds of things. Speak to, what do you mean by expanding the tent, and are you saying that you are sort of trying to assuage any concerns that moderates and whites would have about a Lumumba administration?
I appreciate you asking that question, Pastor Rhodes. Listen, people should understand that as an attorney, I practice throughout this state. I practice not only in Jackson, Mississippi, but I practice in areas where the opposition doesn't look like me, the jury more than likely won't look like me, and the judge doesn't look like me. But I'm able to have success not because we hang out and play golf on the weekends, but because they respect that I will take my work seriously. They know that I will give my all into that case, and so we're able to have success. I've been blessed to have success because I can work with people. I work with people who don't look like me each and every day. And the concern that I would somehow be oppressive to white people or Northeast Jackson is ridiculous, partly because I live in Northeast Jackson, right? So that would suggest that I won't even take care of my own community. Lastly, we have to really ask ourselves the question. I've been labeled as a radical. My father was labeled as a radical. You were told that he would divide the city, and what was demonstrated was something entirely different. Right? And then we have to ask ourselves the question, honestly, when people call me a radical, I take it as a badge of honor. Because Martin Luther King was radical. Medgar Evers was radical. Jesus Christ was radical. Right? And the reality is that we have to be prepared to be as radical as the circumstances dictate we should be. If you look outside these doors and you see a need for a change, then you should all be radical. Right? You should all be radical. And the reality is that we hadn't found ourselves in the condition which we're in because somebody has been too radical for us. Right? I would argue we hadn't been radical enough.
Thank you, sir. Mayor Yarborough, you are the incumbent, and these four gentlemen and others who've qualified believe they can do a better job than you can. And quite honestly, there are a lot of folks in Jackson who are disappointed, discouraged about where things are. They feel things should have gotten done before now. Can you speak to not just what you've done, but can you speak poignantly to why there's so many people who may not want to give you another shot?
Well, you know, this job is more than a notion, number one. While my friend Ronnie loves the Patriots, he cannot be their quarterback. It's one thing to sit on the sidelines and assume that you got the answers until you sit in this seat. I agree. There's a lot that should have gotten done before my 2 years and 10 months. I used to go to Westside Community Center with my grandmama. And we'd go up there to Westside, and Dale Banks would walk in, and folks would stand up and start clapping. And they'd talk about three things. They talk about ditches, dogs, and the streets. And I go into community centers right now. Guess what folks talking about? Ditches and streets. So I agree. It should have gotten done a long time ago. I think I qualify. I got gray hair and I have no hair. But the question that really begs an answer is that if you have 24 years of experience, and if you have 3 terms, what can we say quantifiably that you've done to benefit us? So what has your gray hair, no hair done? When we talk real truth and real honesty, 2 years and 10 months, what we've been able to do is to see this city move 2 years in a row, double digits in crime reduction. 2 years in a row, double digits, with the police department that is at 390 officers. Now, folk don't do work unless they're motivated. They don't work that way. We've seen in the last 2 years and 10 months, this city's unemployment rate go from 7% to 4.9%, and that is lower than the state's average, a state that tries to tell this city how to run its business. So what have we done? We've stood up to that state. We told them we're not sending another police officer down to the state. You're a part of this, so where have you been? You're a part of this system. So why has the city of Jackson had to continue to send $350,000 to the state every year and we don't have any money? In order to do this job, you got to know this job. You may want to end furloughs, but what you got to tell the people is that once you end the furloughs, you got to fire some more folk. You got to know this job in order to do this job. You can't say on TV that the city is moving slow in paving streets when the reality of it is that everybody knows you can't apply for a grant and you don't have matching funds. But you can't do that. Well, the city of Jackson has had to come to the aid of the county under this mayor, this administration, with your 1% sales tax in order to move those projects that the county was unable to move because of that lack of leadership. So you got gray hair, I got gray hair, Ronnie has gray hair, I have no hair. The question is, what have you been doing since you've been there losing your hair? We want to ensure that as we move this city continually, that we do it with results that matter. We've gotten the ball rolling, ladies and gentlemen. We started moving, and as we started moving, the proof is in the pudding. Look at the data. Look at what it says. In less than 10 months, we've seen over 70 streets resurfaced. That's more than we've seen in 10 years. Now, we just hadn't gotten to your street on your way to Walmart or to church yet. But I guarantee you, with the momentum that we have, we're coming. And it's working. But I just think that it is almost insulting to insinuate that the only people capable of moving this city are people who don't have years behind them. Not only does the scripture say that, my brother, but it also says, despise not the days of your youth. It says, despise not the days of your youth. I respect every man that's on this stage. I believe that each of them brings something unique to the table. I love and I honor this brother's father, and I do it all the time. I love the contributions that we all have to bring. But what I will say to every citizen in this city, the question that we have to ask is, do we want to pump the brakes and give another quarterback the opportunity to come in and learn the speed of the game? Otherwise, we'll be having the same conversation again the next election.
So, as somewhat of a follow-up, you mentioned a number of the highlights of the last 2.5 years. I still want to press a little bit more because there are a number of folk, not just who live on streets that haven't been paved yet, but who have seen things in the media, who've heard a lot of scandalous things. And so a lot of them are concerned about the image issues. If you were reelected, what would you do to make sure that those things won't be a part of a second term?
Well, the first thing you got to do is you got to hire better. And we've got to make sure that we are in a situation where when we hire people and they're in positions that are overseeing folks, that they are making the right kinds of decisions and making sure that those decisions aren't negatively affecting our citizenry. The second thing that I take responsibility for is not being more in the weeds. That I take responsibility for not being in situations that demanded my immediate attention at that time. But the image thing is one thing. But I live with an amazing woman who I've known since I was 14 years old, who drove all the way back from Louisiana today to be with me in this moment. And there is nobody, stand up, Tweet, so they can see your power. There is nobody, stand up, don't sit down, and she's sitting by my mama. Both women who I have always adored, who I will always adore, who have always represented power to me, and these are the women who I draw strength from. So as we talk about image, these are the people who are affected, who are really affected, and these citizens are really affected. And I want you to know that I am as a, not just as mayor, but as a man, I am sorry for what this city has had to deal with. I'm sorry for what this city has had to endure. But let me tell you what I know about life in reality. Since we in church, the scripture says that he is indeed an accuser of the brethren. And whenever you don't go along just to go along, the folk that don't want to see the things that should happen will do the things that they need to do. In this city, let me just give you an example and I'm going to get done. We heard about water. In the city of Jackson, when the water issue took place with the 13 homes, the Clarion Ledger said on the front page, Jackson's water has lead. And they ran that story for almost 2 weeks. Clinton's mayor sent out a press release and did a press conference, and he said, Clinton's water has contaminants. How many of you all knew that? All right, one person, two people. The question begs an answer. That begs an answer is Jackson's water never had lead. But for 2 weeks, there was this demonization of your city, the place that we love. The Clarion Ledger ran a story in the paper that showed from 1997, it was a split, 1997 and 2007. 1997, it was a picture of Gayfers. 2007, it was a picture of Catherine's at the Metro Center. And I started looking at that picture, and they started talking about the difference in the Metro Center. And the first thing I remembered was in 1997, what happened in this city? We elected the first African-American mayor. So it's always been an indictment on the leadership of this city. And so while I take responsibility as a man for not getting in the weeds and understanding those issues that would eventually affect this city and be a great detriment to the things that we want to get done and have allowed a lot of that to overshadow the great things that are being done, I also say that there still needs to be somebody who will continue to stand up, and I will continue to stand up against those very folk who are antagonistic against this city, who don't want to see the city move forward. And if that means that more persecution will come, then I'm ready for that.
Let me, the mayor brought up folks down at the State House who don't like the city of Jackson, who haven't played fair with the city of Jackson. And one of the things that a number of citizens have been concerned about is the Capital City Improvement District. Each of you has a very particular view on that. Could each of you speak to what your views are on the state's investment in particular parts of the city of Jackson and whether or not that's a good or a bad thing for us in the long run? Okay, we'll just start with you and work our way down.
Thank you. It's no secret that the state of Mississippi has neglected its capital for a very long time. We've been attempting to get payment in lieu of taxes for some time and have not been able to do that. Right now, there are 3,500 dilapidated properties in this city that you probably live by and you probably are frustrated with. And guess who they belong to? The state of Mississippi. Not only that, but the state of Mississippi sent almost $500 million down to the Mississippi Gulf Coast to build an aquarium. And all we're asking for is $20 million a year to fix your streets. We believe that it is unfortunate, but now we're in a situation where there is some collaboration happening. And we do appreciate the work that's happening at the State House from the delegation, as well as from those who are around the state of Mississippi to see the city have this opportunity. What the state will ultimately be doing is diverting tax funds that will go specifically to a certain area according to the bill that's written right now, that will go to a certain area in the city of Jackson. And what that does is it frees the city of Jackson's coffers up to be able to deal with issues around the city. And so now where the concern has always been almost all of my life that the city would not be investing money just downtown but around town, now the state of Mississippi takes responsibility for that which it utilizes most often. The way that we were able to come up with the boundaries was by looking at those state facilities. Facilities that are run by the state that they don't even pay taxes on. And so we wanted to find a way to be able to look for an investment that will give the state an opportunity to make an investment. And so we believe that it's a good situation. We believe that it's the first opportunity that the state of Mississippi will be involved in investing in the city of Jackson. And we believe that it's one of those bills that we'll probably only get one shot at after this.
Cut me off, Tony. You didn't want me to use the mic? I've been very clear about my dissent in this Capitol Complex bill. And it's not for political reasons, it's for principle reasons. I think it's a bad deal for Jackson. It's true that the state has not done its fair share for the city of Jackson. For that matter, the county hasn't either, right? When we look at downtown, or about half of the buildings downtown are state-owned buildings. And of course, because they're state property, they don't pay property tax to Jackson. When it comes to the water that the state gets from the city of Jackson, they don't pay a water bill to the city of Jackson. I guarantee you they pay energy for their energy bill, right? I guarantee you they pay Atmos for their gas bill. And so we believe that the state should do its fair share. But as we look at this Capitol Complex bill, we have to inform people of what's happening, right? What they're seeking to do is create a district which happens to encompass all of the revenue-producing institutions in Jackson, right? And trying to put a commission over it, right? Trying to put a commission which will be largely appointed by people that you hadn't elected and don't represent you, right? And only giving the city of Jackson one vote in terms of the people who will make the determination of how the money is spent and where the money goes, and would have, there was even an effort at one point to put a judge over the district which would be appointed by the governor that wouldn't be elected by you. And if somebody was arrested in that district, that judge would have the say-so over your children, right? But yet you don't have any say-so over what representation you want there, right? So principally, and lastly, it's no real money for what we're looking at, right? We have $1.5 billion to a $2 billion infrastructure issue in the city of Jackson, and $20 million is what they offer us. So I believe that the state has to give more money, but I do not believe that you can sell the house to pay the mortgage, right?
So let me actually give a very succinct counter proposal. So if we don't do the Capital City Improvement District, then what in lieu of that?
I believe that things, first of all, we still need to have discussion with the state, right? I still believe that we can come up to reasonable agreements that work for the city and for the state of Mississippi, because if Jackson is not able to succeed, then the state of Mississippi ultimately does not succeed, right? So
you're saying basically just continue discussion, or do you have a particular plan?
We can move into agreements. First and foremost, we can make certain that the 1% sales tax we've already passed functions in a better regard, right? Recently, we've seen that the mayor has submitted a proposal to the city council to leverage the 1% funds. I've been talking about that throughout this campaign, and I've announced my candidacy almost a year ago at this point, right? I let people in on what the Lumumba plan was. It wasn't just to get $13 to $15 million annually to attack a $1.5 to $2 billion infrastructure problem. That's not even a drop in the bucket. But a stream of revenue like a 1% sales tax is an asset to a city, just as your home is an asset to you. Just as if you own a business, that building and that business is an asset to you. And so you can use that asset in order to leverage it for more funds. And we saw a mechanism by which we could have leveraged that funds to up to $500 million in order to tackle our infrastructure issues. And so it's that although that will not cure all of the issues, right? It will make a substantial step in terms of improving our infrastructure and then incorporating a comprehensive master plan that looks not only to fix the roads, but to fix the pipes and to have economic development geared towards the areas that we are improving. That's important. I've heard my opponent, John Horn, mention who is the author of this bill. I've heard him say that when Tupelo got money from the state, they didn't care who controlled it. And when the Gulf Coast got money from the state, they didn't care who controlled it. Well, that's disingenuous. First and foremost, Jackson is the only city that they ever proposed a commission to be put on it, right? And if Commissioner Horn, Senator Horn, if Senator Horn does not believe that it matters who controls the money, then I propose that he deliver his check over to me and I'll take care of your bills. I'll make certain that they're paid and I'll prioritize them and make certain that your home is taken care of.
All right, so we'll stop there because we want to hear what you had to say. We'll let the senator respond. I do want to remind some of y'all that this is a church setting, and so the gray hair and the no hair and all this kind of stuff, that's, yeah, go ahead, Brother Crip. And as we're moving on, let me go ahead and start taking some of the questions that have already come in.
All right. I'll go ahead and just say, I do agree with the bill. I believe it's something that needs to be done. I appreciate Representative Wooten for changing the commission. She put that in there, that it's going to be done by Jackson. Now, what I don't probably agree about is that the city council will be doing the choosing, but I think that it's a bill that needs to be done. But at the same time, I don't believe we don't want to make sure that the state leaders are not taking over Jackson. But I do agree with the bill. I believe it's something that needs to be done, and I appreciate Senator Horn for authoring that. Like I said, at the same time, it's changed up now that we won't have that judge that's going to be doing that. I believe it's a good bill that we need to see for the city of Jackson.
Thank you very much. Hypothetically, the bill is not passed. The governor has not signed anything. We don't know what the final version of this particular bill is going to look like. So until we do, we are just hypothetically speaking. I do not agree with the bill. It's going to take more than $20 million to handle Jackson's problems. We have a $1 billion infrastructure problem. And the state of Mississippi giving us $20 million is laughable. It is shameful. They are trying to give us money that's already ours. So how can they pass legislation to give us something that's already ours? I do not agree with it. I don't think it's going to pass this year. And it's not the best thing for the city of Jackson. We need a comprehensive plan in the city of Jackson. We don't need to start doing things on a daily basis because we have no plan. If there is a plan, where is it? I haven't seen it. The state hasn't seen it. No one from the federal government, no one from the state, no one from the city is going to give anyone any money because there's no money there. But for the money that the state has, it's already ours. And we shouldn't have to ask for it.
Well, I just heard a lot of misinformation out here. But let me just say this.
Let me just, before you talk, what exactly is the misinformation? Make sure you comment on that.
Number one, it's not my bill. This is a House bill. It's a House bill. And my bill does not call for a commission. My bill's dead. But it did not call for a commission. It did not call for a prescribed district. It required a committee to be set up, the chairman of whom would be appointed by the mayor of Jackson. And it requires approval of any plan that would come forth from the Department of Finance and Administration that's in charge of state-owned buildings to be approved by the mayor and the city council of Jackson. Now that's the facts of the matter. We did not have that measure before us in the Senate. It hadn't even come before the full Senate yet. So that's misinformation. It's misinformation that we're talking about $20 million a year. We're talking about $20 million. We're talking about $24 million per year. Per year, not just a one $20 million authorization. So that's an error. Yes, we have to go through the process. The legislative process is something that that no one really likes the process, because you don't know what you're going to get. The bill is going to go to conference. We hope on the Senate side, and by the way, the House members from the Hinds County delegation voted in favor of that bill as it came out of the House. The entire delegation, minus one who voted present. The Senate members of the Hinds County delegation favored the Senate version of the bill, which does not call for a commission, which does not require a prescribed district, which will have an annual allocation of $24 million, which requires the mayor and the city council to give approval on any work that's done. And this would be the first time that the state of Mississippi, on a consistent basis, would take responsibility for its capital city. But let me remind you, over the last 24 years, folks say, what have you done? We've delivered $500 million to the city of Jackson in resources. $280 million in the 1 cent sales tax alone. $280 million that will cover over the next 20 years a lot of the infrastructure. But when we passed that bill, we knew it wasn't going to cover all the problems of Jackson. We knew it was going to get us about 1/3 of the way there. And we looked to the city to do the rest, to help with the rest. Now the state is looking back to try to provide some additional help with this capital, we call it the State Capital Infrastructure Fund. And the state needs to do more for the capital city. But we can't sit here and say the state hasn't done anything, because had it not been for the state, you wouldn't have that JSU Parkway. Had it not been for the state, you wouldn't have that convention center. Had it not been for the state, you wouldn't have the Civil Rights Museum and the History Museum. Had it not been for the state, you wouldn't have the $6 million that we got for Ferris. They spent the money and we see what's going on, but we gave them the money. Had it not been for the state, you wouldn't have the 1 cent sales tax that's going to generate $280 million. So you can't sit here and say the state hasn't done anything for the capital city. Should it do more? Absolutely. Absolutely. But let's not kid ourselves that the state has been sitting there. Every major project that has come to this city in the last 20 years has been through the help of the state of Mississippi.
I know there's some back and forth we want to do, but let's pause real quick. I actually want to go back to Supervisor Graham, because the mayor made a statement that you've got the experience, particularly with your 3 terms in the county, but you haven't really done enough. So can you speak to that particular critique of your leadership and what you have indeed done for the city of Jackson?
Thank you very much. Well, I think it's kind of disingenuous for a statement like that to be made from a person that doesn't have any experience. Over the period of the times that I've been elected as supervisor, we have replaced all of the warning sirens in the city of Jackson. All of my district is in the city of Jackson. We have paved roads in North Jackson and throughout the city. In fact, we have 15 roads that are waiting to be paved right now because the present administration will not sign the interlocal agreement for us to pave the rest of Watkins Drive, Hamilton Boulevard, Forest Avenue, Sedgwick Drive, Catherine Drive, Raymond Road, McDowell Road. All of these roads are waiting to be paved right now. All that needs to be done is a simple piece of paper to be signed by the present administration. We've gotten roads, we've gotten equipment for firefighters. We've gotten equipment for police officers. We bought new vehicles for sheriff's departments. We bought new vehicles for the district attorney's office. We've bought new fire apparatus for every single fire station in the incorporated area of Hinds County. My record is clear. My record is a record of accomplishments. My record is not that of talking. Thank you.
Pastor. Right, yeah, so hold on, real quick. We'll get
but let me say.
Wait, hold on.
Let me just
let you get in, Mayor.
Okay,
I'll let you get in, but Attorney Lumumba had his hand up first, and we're gonna go with the order. The one with gray hair and the one with no hair. That's how we're gonna go in the order.
Well, I just want to address this representation that there's a lot of misinformation as it with respect to the Capitol Complex bill. First and foremost, yes, this year's version of Senator Horn's Senate bill did fail. However, this year's version of the House bill is almost a replica of last session's bill authored by Senator Horn. So, in essence, both bills are Senator Horn's bills. And so let's not be disingenuous with people to say that your bill didn't offer any commission. In fact, as we go back to the 1% sales tax, as that was first authored and the 1% concept was offered for the city, it was at a time where there was not a supermajority, where it went into committee with Senator Horn and came out with a commission. He actually let a bill go in that was better than when he and Hinds County had most of the representation at that time. So they brought something out in a worse condition than it went in, right? And so we always end up with these commissions. And what we did, Mayor Lumumba was never okay with the commission. But what he did was reach a reasonable agreement, and we're not opposed to reasonable agreements if we can come to those. It was at the time where the Chamber of Commerce, they offered to hand over their votes on the commission to the city of Jackson, thereby giving the city of Jackson the majority of the votes on the commission. It wasn't because it was a perfect concept coming in, but we made reasonable adjustments to make it work. That's first and foremost. Secondly, since we're talking about records, and this isn't to disparage anyone. This is a sincere discussion where I believe sincere people can have sincere disagreements so that we get to the best place. But as we talk about all of these accomplishments, let's really look at them intently. When we talk about a civil rights museum, which honestly was the brainchild of Reuben Anderson and Tougaloo community, and it was supposed to be in the Tougaloo community, and now you see the road that leads to nowhere in the Tougaloo community because that civil rights museum was snatched from them in order to be taken downtown, and now you see a civil rights museum that has virtually no minority participation in the building. So if we can't even work on a civil rights museum, where do we get the opportunity to work? And this is the state that we're supposed to be so gracious in everything that they've given us, right? That we, where you see less than 1% of contracts being given to minorities. That's egregious. It's egregious in a state that is estimated to be 40% minority. And we get less than 1% of the contracts, right? So we have to be sincere with people when we give them this information, so they know what we're up against.
All right. We'll let the mayor get in. Senator Horn, if you can write down some of those things. We do want to get to questions from the audience. So we'll let you respond, Mayor, and then we'll get some of the audience questions.
Thank you, Pastor. I want to reiterate, if you're going to do this job, you got to know this job. And so let's talk about the 15 streets. You send to the city an interlocal agreement that you want us to allow you to resurface 15 streets that have sidewalks. The city has a consent decree with the ADA, Supervisor Graham. Not certain if you knew that. But as a result of that, we cannot resurface a street without restoring the existing sidewalk. Now, we would love to take that money and resurface those streets. So let me tell you what we risk in doing that. And this is somebody who wants to be your mayor. What we risk is the Tiger grant that we just was awarded from the federal government of $16.5 million, an additional $3 million, the $8.9 million that we just got as a result of the FAST Act that came through the Metropolitan Planning Organization. We jeopardize having to send all of that money back because Supervisor Graham wants us to pave streets that he hadn't paved in 3 terms so he can be mayor. This has to stop. We got to be responsible. We can't pave these streets and you hadn't sent us the money to do the sidewalks because we have to send this money back. So if we're going to have these conversations, let's be genuine with people. Let's tell people that we appreciate the fact that the mayor has done all the rest of the streets that did not require this kind of a risk that would jeopardize us from being able to move forward and do future things. So if we're going to have a conversation, Supervisor Graham, my recommendation would be that we have a conversation about how we find the money for the sidewalks. Secondly, and I'm done, 2 years ago, almost to the date, I declared a state of emergency on our water system. Anybody remember that? Mm-hmm. City Council voted it down. The state of Mississippi didn't come in conjunction. The Hinds County Board of Supervisors didn't hear from them either. And all of a sudden, 2 weeks ago, we get emergency declaration on the water. But the emergency declaration was to buy water bottles, $10,000. We need your emergency declaration to help us fix these 100-year-old pipes. We need the opportunity to be able to have genuine partnerships, not political volleyball. I want to be your mayor because when I get done doing this, I go back to Relevant Empowerment Church. I go back to tweeting Tony and Cameron and Carmen. I go back to just being simple. I don't have a business on the side. I don't have all of those. I just want to do what's best for my city. And I want to do it in a genuine way that allows us to be able to be better today than we were yesterday. I would love to be able to run a campaign where we didn't have to talk politics, but we talk issues. I love to be able to have a campaign where we're able to discuss things that really affect people in the streets. Like being able to institute, before President Obama even said anything, where we banned the bots in this city. Where we said to our brothers and sisters, we know some of y'all been incarcerated. We want you to be able to come and get a job, work for the city without having to reveal that you've been convicted so that we can remove that initial prejudice. By us saying in our contract negotiations, if you're going to get a contract in the city of Jackson, you got to tell us, show us, prove to us, demonstrate to us how you're going to put our people to work. I'm looking for those kinds of things from the county as well.
Mr. Moderator, if I can just step in 1 second to say that.
Well, let
me just say that I stand by my statement that I said. We have potholes that have potholes. We need to get the potholes fixed. Now the mayor wants to fix potholes after 3.5 years later? No. The thing is, I stand by my statement that we are here to help. We have helped. We paved roads. We have 15 more roads in the city of Jackson that would be paved in the morning. Forget about the sidewalks. That's just an issue that they're trying to bring in to prevent the county from paving the streets. We're not paving the sidewalk, we're paving the street. The streets are ready to be paved. Thank you.
Well, since you did that, we got to pass the mic to Senator Horn so he can respond to Brother Antar down here.
Well, thank you. You know,
and this is the last retort because now we got to get to the questions from the audience.
Right. Well, I'll just say this. There's no elected official in the state of Mississippi who's done more for minority participation than yours truly. And I'll stack my hat on that. No one has done more to try to help minority contractors get a fair shake with the state, with the corporate community, whether it's with Nissan, whether it's with the gaming industry. I authored the legislation that put the minority language in the Continental Tire bill. Now, of course, what happened is the county took over the minority participation, and I got blackballed. And so the effort on Continental Tire is abysmal. It's abysmal in terms of that. But when we talk about the Civil Rights Museum and other state contractor work, I'm the one who did the study that Mr. Lumumba just quoted. I know very well what we're doing and what we're not doing with regard to minority participation. We're in a state where in the Mississippi legislature, we represent 22% of the total membership in that legislature. It is a miracle that we ever get anything out of that legislature. And yet we've been able to get $500 million over the last 20 some odd years. The 1 cent sales tax was something that we contemplated would be bonded, and that's what the city told us. They told us that 6 years ago. And not only our streets weren't as bad as they are 6 years ago, as they are now. They aren't, the water situation isn't as bad as it was 6 years ago. But the 1 cent sales tax was a blessing for us, and so would the Capitol complex be if we were to get it. Now, in the course of legislation, do you change your mind? Do you do things differently? Yes. I did a bill that was completely different than the one I authored last year. I thought it was an improvement, and I still think that it's an improvement because it doesn't have the requirements of a commission. It doesn't have the prescribed district, and it requires the approval of the mayor and the city council. On the Civil Rights Museum, I begged our brothers, our black contractors, brothers, this thing is coming down. Why don't you all form partnerships so that you can go after this museum? They didn't do it. As luck would have it, we had, and the way that our state does, the rules are about lowest and best bids. Whoever comes up with the lowest bid is who gets the work. And in this case, there was a black company out of Ohio that had the lowest, the second lowest bid. They lost the bid by $50,000, and we didn't get the opportunity to deal with the museum the way we wanted. But a black man designed that museum, and every piece of furniture in that museum that's going in is being provided by a black female-owned company. So is it enough? It's never enough. It's never enough. We're in a battle here, and it's a rough battle, and the odds are against us. But that doesn't mean we don't keep trying.
All right. So we'll put a pause right there, and we're going to hand the mic off. There are three persons in the audience who want to actually vocalize their question. And so there's Jacqueline Amos, James Root, and Darian Spann who want to come forward to ask their question. If you could stand and come to this center aisle, they're going to need to borrow that microphone. And if you could ask your question as succinctly as possible. Here are the questions that you asked. So you can, yeah, okay. And what I want to do is to have the three of you to ask them in succession. So 1, 2, 3, and then we'll have the panelists answer one or more of your questions.
All right. Good evening, gentlemen. How do you see the faith-based community's role in making an impact on the current challenges of the city?
All right, next. Wait. I'm sorry, they're going to all ask their question, and then we'll allow you to respond. So question number 2.
What have you done or created or started in the last 3 to 5 years that has prepared you for this job? Tell us where we can find proof of how well it worked or didn't work.
It's extremely important that we not only elect the right person to fix the problems that we have in Jackson, but that we come together as a community to all pitch in. But we can all agree that the negative campaigns and the bashing only separate us as Democrats and citizens? Will each of you commit to run a campaign about issues so that the citizens can focus on the real problems that we have, that we face, that we are facing at this time, and which of you can fix them?
Okay. The faith-based community. A couple of weeks ago, working together Jackson, which is a faith-based organization, I began an initiative in partnership with the faith-based community to begin to clean up blight in Jackson. And if you go along the JSU Metro Parkway, you can see the results of that. In addition to that, we expect that we're going to be continuing to work with the faith-based community as it relates to blight elimination. There is about 3,000 properties owned by the state of Mississippi that can be demolished. About 40% of them may be salvageable, but 60% need to be torn down. We expect that we'll create jobs as a result of that blight elimination. The state's putting up $20 million. We expect to work with the faith-based community and have the city of Jackson go after a sizable amount of that money. As far as what have you done? In the last 3 to 5 years, 6 years ago, we passed the 1-cent sales tax. I was the author of that. I've been involved with the development of high-end yet affordable housing in my private life that has been brought to fruition in 163 new units in Jackson. As far as the Civil Rights Museum, there's $17 million that has been required to be raised by the state in a match to the $92 million that the state has given us. I've been responsible for raising $3.5 million of that. I believe that we have to come together. I'm sick of this negative campaigning. When I did my campaign kickoff, I made a point of saying we are not going to campaign on anybody's negatives. We're going to campaign on the issues, and we intend to keep our word on that.
Thank you very much. Again, I agree with Senator Horn. I promise that I will not do any negative campaigning. That's how my campaign starts. That's how it's going to end. No negative campaigning. We've had enough negative campaigning. What we need to talk about are the issues. And when you find out when a person has a grasp of these particular issues, then they don't have to do negative campaigning. As far as the faith-based community, I'm now working with some retired NFL players on a program. It's called Cops, Pros, and Churches. Some of you may have known Vernon Perry. He has this particular program. The program is to help churches, citizens, children, and police come together to stop some of the violence that's happening in this city. We have got to stop the violence. Again, I want to reiterate one of the things that I said earlier, and I want to make sure that this resonates with everyone here. This is the city of Jackson, the city that we love, and people are laughing at us. People are laughing at the capital city of the state of Mississippi. And that's something that is deeply regretful. As far as projects, all you have to do is to go to my website. All you have to do is to look at the things that I've done. We've started new voting machines. We've got new voting precincts. The Continental Tower Company, even though I did not start it, we approved it. The Westin Hotel, a new radio system for the Sheriff's Department, for the Jackson Police Department, a new radio system for the Fire Department, a new dispatching system for the dispatchers at the Jackson Police Department, Premier Bottling Company, which will be opening within the next 3 months with 70 new employees, Precision Automated Services, which will be opening in Clinton in 5 months with 70 new employees. I want to make sure that everyone leaves here with the fact and knowing that even though people are laughing at us, we're still not as bad as some people would have you to believe that we are. This is my home. I was born here. My wife was born here. My children are born here. We went to school here. I graduated at Jackson State University. I'm the only person sitting on this stand with a degree in criminal justice. I've seen crime up close and personal. 1 person shot, 2 people shot, 4 people shot, houses being broken into, children crying, stolen cars, among some of the things. Some of the things that I would not wish upon anyone here because of my 36 years that I spent with the police department. It pains me greatly just to be able to see the police officers that do their job every day and they have to go home at night with all of this on their mind. We owe a great bit of gratitude to the men and women in blue. And that's something that I cannot get out of me. And it's something that I'm glad will never leave me. People are laughing at the capital city of the state of Mississippi. We need new leadership. We need Robert Graham.
I'm going to stand up in my response. I'm glad you kind of carried the way there. All those issues are issues that I've already dealt with. I appreciate those questions. First of all, Ms. Amos, I'll answer you. No, I would not run a negative campaign. I believe negativity is stupid, so I'm not going to do it. Darian, from your standpoint, I'll say, what have I done over the last 5 years to make me be mayor? Let's name them. Housing is one of the things that we've done over this city. 20 plus houses and homes that we've put, I'll say not affordable housing, but affordable home ownership. Because a lot of folks can say affordable housing, but sometimes that means rental properties. But affordable home ownership is one of the things that we've done all over this city to make sure families get in homes. We've gone to city parks, painted pools. We've also developed youth programs. Right now, we know the children in our city, ages 15 and 24, those are the ones who are committing the most crimes in the city of Jackson. So we started a program called the Development Academy because I believe arts is important to our children. We started football teams, basketball teams, music, martial arts, tumbling, all those things that we've started at our center in South Jackson called the New Horizons Center. You can go and research, you come out, I can show it to you right now. Because those are the things that we've already done in this city. Definitely from James. We've already done work with the faith-based community. I work for New Horizons Ministry, and for Working Together Jackson, I was on that board for a couple of years. So from the faith-based community, we can lead the example of what we've already done. We've already done that. So starting our housing program that we've done from New Horizons Ministries, we've had other churches, from churches in Jackson, then churches outside of Jackson, to say, hey, how can we do and follow your example of what you're already doing? Because like I said, I believe housing is important. We see plenty of dilapidated homes all over this city. And I'm not in favor of just tearing homes down, because a lot of these homes can be renovated. If they're renovated, we can put them back on the tax roll, and we have that revenue for the entire city of Jackson. So even though we do need to see some homes torn down, we can show examples of what we can do. And like I said, this is not something I'm talking about. These are things that we've already done in my past. Right now, you can research. I'm all about the children. The name of my campaign is called Let's Rebuild Together, because we have to rebuild this city together. And so we have to invest in our youth and our children. That's one of the things that we've done. It's very important from a school standpoint. I want to be very heavily involved in making sure we pick the right next superintendent that's going to be in our city. Because if we don't get that thing right, we're going to be in a world of chaos than what we're in now. So from a standpoint of who I am, that's what I've done. You can research me, look at information, or I'll give you the information myself. You don't have to go to my website, come talk to me, I'll show it to you, everything that we've done. I'll take you by every house that we've renovated all over this city and tell you this is what we've done, this is what I'll continue to do as my time as possibly your next mayor.
First and foremost, I'd like to thank each individual that came forward for their question. I had to take notes to make certain that I kept up with every question and make certain that I could actually list all of the things that we've been engaged in over the last few years. Sometimes you forget yourself, everything that you've been a part of. But first and foremost, I'll address the faith-based community question. I think it is absolutely essential that we engage our faith-based community in the revitalization and rebuilding of Jackson. We can have our faith-based community. One thing that we've started at our own church, I go to Free Christian Ministries, where I'm blessed to have my father-in-law as the pastor, is that we've already started to go to schools in order to engage those schools so that we could adopt those schools and start working with those young people. We need our faith-based community to be a key part of how we address our young people and how we engage our young people. And it is absolutely essential that we have our faith-based community to be a partner in that. We also have to, I believe that we have to think outside of the box and start using our capital as a faith-based community. We have over 900 churches in the city of Jackson. Right? If we developed a plan by which all of the money that is deposited into Jackson banks every Monday morning, and we use that money as a buying power in order to demand an agenda that works for those churches and works for our cities, we have a power that has been untapped and needs to be utilized. And so I want to encourage that amongst our faith-based communities, and I will be a supporter and a proponent of that. Going into the question of what we have been doing over the last few years, I've been a part of the Coalition for Economic Justice that we helped to develop. I was the media chair and one of the people who initially worked on the organization of that particular coalition. The Coalition for Economic Justice was a key part of challenging the state for the airport takeover, a key part of educating the citizens in terms of the Capitol Complex bill and giving you information so that you truly understand what is affecting you right now. We did much promotion on just informing people of those circumstances, because information is power and people deserve to have the proper information. I've been a part of Cooperation Jackson. Just a few blocks from here, you will find the Lumumba Center for Economic Democracy and Development, where we're trying to empower communities in order for them to gain economic control and economic power so that they can control their own destinies. We're looking at innovative ways of bringing industry and development into town. We're looking at the model of thinking outside of the box. Oftentimes, we find ourselves engaged in merely a discussion of how we entice businesses to come here. We have to also consider where there is a need that we can feel, we develop the businesses ourselves and look at cooperative business models where the people who live in the community own the business, and the people who work in that business not only determine what their labor will be, but they have a say-so in what the fruits of their labor will be. If we need a movie theater in Jackson, then we can develop our own cooperative movie theater, right? If you look at cities like Green Bay, they're able to have the biggest cooperative business that you can imagine. The Green Bay Packers are actually owned by the citizens of Green Bay. If they can develop a National Football League team, I believe we can figure out how to get a movie theater or grocery stores that we need. So that's what I've been engaged in. I've also had the opportunity to look at how we use innovative technology in terms of addressing our needs. We've looked at the possibility and met with people on the possibility of making Jackson what they call a fab city. This is an initiative that is going around the world. I had the opportunity to travel to Barcelona, Spain, and meet with the vice mayor of Barcelona. And we discussed the issues of Jackson and the issues of Barcelona and the nexus between those and how we could develop a relationship where they had many of these cooperative businesses that we were talking about, where you saw libraries and grocery stores and bars and housing, all of these things that we could develop right here in Jackson. And they were using fabrication technology to build anything that they need. If you look around the world, you see how big industry is declining and how the big corporate giants are having trouble, and what is happening is, as technology is becoming more accessible on a local level, people are able to produce their needs at a local level. And so we have a fabrication lab at the Lumumba Center. We're trying to build fabrication technology to do that. You wanted to know what I was doing.
That's great.
So,
that's a lot of good stuff.
There are many more things that we can get to.
So let's direct them to the website. We want to get to the mayor, and then there are a few more questions.
I wanted to go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't want to keep other folk from asking questions.
There are a number of things. There are a number of things that I've been engaged in, and so I'll cut that list short. But I do want to address the last question of negativity. I do not believe that the people of Jackson appreciate negative campaigning. nor do I believe that it is beneficial in terms of us reaching our best end. And so I will not participate in negative campaigning. I have never participated in negative campaigning, right? Anyone who knows me knows that I am a man of principle. You may disagree with my politics, and I'm okay with that, right? I'm okay with that because I invite critique. I invite critique so that we can get to a better place. But anyone who knows me will tell you that I am a man of principle. I'm a man of principle, and so I will not lie to you, nor will I try to attack any of these people. In fact, I don't believe that this campaign is a battle of individuals. I think these are wonderful guys up here. I think these are wonderful guys, and I applaud them for wanting to serve their city. I believe that this is not a battle of personalities, it's a battle of ideas, as I said at the beginning of this forum. And I just submit that the best idea should reign supreme at the end of the day. And I believe that we present the best ideas to move the city of Jackson forward at this time. And so we will not participate in any negative campaign. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, let me first of all, and I don't want to do this publicly, because the last campaign, the last couple of weeks, specifically going into, more specifically on Easter Sunday, there was a negative campaign that was launched against me. And one of the first things that Attorney Lumumba did was to call me and to, first of all, assure me that it was not him, but to, second of all, say that he was going to help me find out who it was. So negative campaigning is not just about you saying, oh, I didn't do it. Negative campaigning, stopping negative campaigning is also about you making sure that the people who are around you understand that you will not tolerate it, that you will expose them, and that you will make sure that people understand that you have a platform and you don't need the negativity. So, brother, I just wanted to thank you publicly for that phone call that I got, because that's the true spirit of campaigning the way that you should. The second question that I want to just address quickly has to do with the faith-based. The faith-based community has a great deal of work to be engaged in. And the faith-based community has work that we can be engaged in on several fronts. Number one, in economic development. Number two, how do we deal with crime and injustice? And then, in my opinion, number three, how do we educate our children? And the faith-based community has to be engaged in that. You've heard talk about Working Together Jackson. We've worked with Working Together Jackson. We've also worked with My Best program to create a program called the Jackson 500, which is a workforce development program that is training men and women to get engaged in this revitalization of the city's infrastructure. This is not stuff that we're talking about we want to see happen. These are things that are happening right now. The fact that over 100 are enrolled in this program who are being trained. At least 2 to 3 of them were homeless before they got involved in this program and are now staying on the campus at Hines Community College. These are things that are happening right now. People who were once incarcerated, who we wanted to be sure had an opportunity to be a part of this program so they could receive training, whether it's being a plumber or whether they're understanding how they have an opportunity to be a welder. Whatever those unique skills are that we identified that will be instrumental in moving this city forward in infrastructure improvements in the next 20 years, but also in creating entrepreneurs. And so it's not just about, folks say that you rather teach a man to fish. Well, I just rather own my own pond. And that's the true spirit that we want to make sure that people understand. What have we been doing, Brother Span, that's quantifiable, that you can go and trace us on? We've been able to see the needle move in our early childhood development center, where we instituted a program called Project Read. We changed the philosophy of our child care center so that it would be literacy focused. You know what that did? It yielded a group of children, a cohort that we sent to Jackson Public Schools, who, when they tested for the state kindergarten readiness program, they outscored almost every student that were their peers. Why? Because they were ready to read when they got there. What else did we do? We were able, and that's quantifiable. We were able to not only do that, but we're also able to say, look, we know we're furloughing employees. We know that they need more money. So we put in a city clinic where city employees and their dependents don't have to pay for health care. They walk right into a clinic. They get the needs met. As a matter of fact, we're at capacity right now, and the clinic folks are saying we need to move. We need more room because of the fact that people are taking advantage of this service. Not only that, but we've been able to see the fact that a budget that we saw become dismal for whatever reasons. There was so much conjecture about it. People were thinking that the budget, that we would end this past fiscal year with the budget not having